And I've come to the conclusion that our Supreme Court is no longer a court. It is a political arm of Donald Trump and the MAGA movement. And think about this. The court obviously has 3 liberal justices, but there are 6 conservative firebrands who essentially control a supermajority, and they can do what they want. These are 6 unelected people who can decide how much freedom the rest of us 330 million people in this country can have. 6 people decide what's best for 330 million people. Now, there's something wrong with this structure, and it's illustrated by one really critical fact. 5 of the 6 conservative justices on the Supreme Court that are giving Trump all this power were appointed by presidents who lost the popular vote. Think about it. After Trump lost to Hillary Clinton in 2016, he appointed 3 justices, Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, and Amy Coney Barrett. After George Bush, the son, lost to Al Gore by every independent assessment way back in the year 2000, he appointed 2 of the 3 other conservative justices, Samuel Alito and John Roberts. So 5 of the 6 were appointed by presidents who didn't even win the popular vote. And they're making all of these decisions now to essentially turn over the judicial branch to the executive branch. Now, there was a case last Friday that you probably heard about. It's had to do with birthright citizenship, but there was a procedural decision in that case that essentially dismantles the power of all 700 or so federal trial judges to issue nationwide injunctions, which are the leading tool to block Trump's abuses of power. Injunctions to block Elon Musk, for example, from getting our private Social Security data. Injunctions to block Trump from forcing transgender military service members out of the military. Injunctions to stop Trump from using the Alien Enemies Act to pretend like there's this fake war with Venezuelan gangs, to abduct and deport immigrants without due process of law to third-party countries. All of those have been blocked by these nationwide injunctions because these policies are illegal. And most judges around the country agree that these policies are illegal. So the nationwide injunction was the tool to stop them and stop them quickly. So why is the Supreme Court suddenly saying that a nationwide injunction itself, which has existed for decades and decades in our jurisprudence, is suddenly illegal? Like, why? And what's the real tell here is that under the Biden administration, our conservative-dominated Supreme Court was perfectly content to let nationwide injunctions be imposed by federal trial judges to block Biden's policies. But when they're used by federal trial judges to block Trump's policies, they're suddenly illegal. I mean, this is blatant politics, and it's really, really disturbing. So I want people to know that, in my view, the system of checks and balances that has defined the governance of this country since its inception way back in 1776 is, in my view, in tatters. It's over, at least for the time being. The 2 branches that are supposed to check a president's power, our Congress and our judiciary, have largely turned themselves over in service to Trump's authoritarian and even dictatorial impulses. Right now, between the Supreme Court decision dismantling nationwide injunctions and an earlier Supreme Court decision giving Trump immunity from criminal prosecution while in office, essentially anointing him king and carving out an area of the law that cannot reach him, we have given this man extraordinary power that he can use to chart a clear path to autocracy. And what's crazy is the very institution in our country, our judiciary, our Supreme Court, that's supposed to stop this, that's supposed to check this power, now exists largely in service of this power. It is really, really disturbing. And I want to say one other thing. There are times our Supreme Court pushes back a little bit against Trump for whatever reason. But I would say even those decisions, don't be fooled, they're largely done, in my opinion, to protect whatever semblance of legitimacy the court has left So when it moves in service of Trump on the big issues, people are more likely to accept those decisions as legitimate. So don't be fooled when on occasion the court rules against Trump. The larger picture is the Supreme Court is no longer acting as a court. It's acting as a political arm of Trump and the MAGA movement, and it is cause for deep concern for all Americans and for all people who really want this country to be governed by the rule of law.